Hello and welcome everybody to another CONTRABIM tutorial here on Archicad. My name is John and today we are talking about interior elevations, and we're going to be covering some of the tips and tricks to get those interiors to recognize your zones, and also how to get the interior elevations placed automatically onto your layouts so that when you drag and drop your listing of interiors, they come in automatically and they are scaled right, and they really kind of stick to the drawing in the right location, just like that, what we just showed here on the screen. So there's a few little settings to really pay attention to that we're going to be covering today on this video in order to get those to actually show up in the right location, and not only show up in the right location but also stay there if you do happen to move your elements around or interior elevations around within your project. It is really nice when they actually stick there and are centered within the grid. So that's what we're going to be covering today. I haven't really seen many other tutorials talking about drawing placements, so I thought I would do one on interior elevations just because there's a lot that we can cover here with this topic. So okay, first of all, let's start off by doing a quick review here of our master layout. Now, in this particular case, I actually have a special master layout that I have set up here, particularly for interior elevations. So let's go ahead and open that. One of the things that I want to point out here is you'll notice that we're starting in the top right corner and our numbering sequence goes to the left. So a lot of the times on other types of grid layouts for details or other purposes, often we'll start in the bottom right and then work our way up in the columns. In this case, I like having the interior elevations where we have the four sides of each room on the horizontal plane here. So that's what we are doing. Let's take a closer look at the master layout settings though. So this is obviously an architectural D size, and in order to create this this grid that we're seeing here in the background, down here under the drawing placement option, we do have this align and assign drawings to a grid. And so by going into this, we can set up our grid so that we define whether it's a flat or matrix style. I like doing just the flat style just to have a simple numbering there. You can pick how many cells. So in this case, we have four, one for each face of the room, and then 3 rooms per sheet fits pretty well. In this case, we're starting from the top right corner, and our numbering style is just with the typical 1, 2, 3. And yeah, so that is essentially the main points that I want to start out with. So yeah, those are the settings on the masters. We'll jump over next to our floor plan here, where we actually have a few of these little sample rooms set up, and we're actually going to be working with our laundry room here. So I can actually go and we'll just pick up the settings of the interior elevation from our pantry. That way we have the same kind of the same view settings already set up, ready to go, and we are just going to go ahead and start working with our new laundry room here. And we'll add the interior elevation. We'll talk a little bit about the naming of it, and then we'll go ahead and place it on the layout and talk about those important settings for really how to get that to automatically happen for us. So when going to place an interior elevation, there are a few different methods that we can use here. You can also use the magic wand tool, but you can see here in the background as we do that, it actually is it's actually picking up the slab in the room in that case and picking up more content. So my preference whenever placing these interior elevations is to always just kind of do a manual square, and then I like offsetting the boundaries based on that. So this way I know I'm only going to get 4. Sometimes when we use that magic wand tool, it'll pick up more and create 6, and it just becomes kind of a pain to deal with. Now whenever these get placed, I always kind of shift the interior elevation down, and then I do like to shift that zone label up just so that we have a little bit more room here to work with. Oh, I don't think I grabbed that. I grabbed the insertion point. And so, okay, there we go. So we've now kind of adjusted our zone. We have placed interior elevations that are actually cutting through our walls here. There's a lot of different ways of having these displayed, whether they get cut off at the finished surface or if you show the whole assembly. I kind of like to see the entire assembly. One other thing that I also like to do is just kind of adjust the boundary here so that we are picking up the kind of the main points of interest. So in this case, I probably want to pick up that window. We can adjust this boundary here to pick up the center line on that sink. We can adjust this one on the top side to again pick up the window and the door. And finally, well, really we can set this wherever we want, but again, it's kind of nice to be able to pick up the sink, cutting through the cabinets, and that taller cabinet there. Okay, so now that we've made some adjustments, let's actually jump here to our cloned folder that we have set up here. And you actually notice that we have one zone up here at the top that is, if we expand this, we can actually see that that is picking up our laundry room. So this is one of the little quirks that I've found with placing interior elevations. I'm not sure if it's just my settings that I have here, or if I have something wrong, but what we're trying to get to happen here with these interior elevations is we want them to automatically recognize the zone number and the orientation. In this case is kind of how I like doing it, where I have the, you know, in this case for the laundry, I have the 105 east, north, south, and west. So that's what we've set up here. In this case, it isn't automatically recognizing it. So the way that you add those is just by going in and using these auto text options. So that is what I want. It does appear here like the zone name is not working either in that top level. So if someone out there has a suggestion for why these are not being automatically populated, I would love to hear it. I'm sure others may be having that same issue. But I have found that there is a workaround for this, and it involves actually picking up the interior elevation, moving it off, and then moving it back on. And it doesn't always work on the first time, but we hope that it does. In this case, I can see that it did pick up those interior views. We're going to try this again. And again, I'm just kind of moving it off. And we're going to try to stick it back in here, and hopefully we get lucky. And okay, so that time we did. So now it did recognize our laundry room here. Again, I'm not sure why it doesn't do that on the first go around. I don't know if it's a little glitch or it's just my settings, but hopefully you don't have that same issue. If you do, then that little trick of moving it off and on can help redefine that. So okay, so that is the placement of our interior elevation. Now you can see here that we have not placed any of these views yet onto our layout. We are going to be doing that here onto our kitchen layout. But before we do that, I want to take a quick look at some of the settings here relating to these individual elevations. And really the best place to start with this is actually by taking a look at the top level of our cloned interior elevations view here. So if you set up your top level correctly, then whenever you create a new interior elevation within that clone, obviously it'll pick up those settings and should be good to go. So let's go ahead and we're going to start with our view settings here. Now you can see we're currently set to 1/4 inch scale. We do have a graphic override here set for some interiors. We're currently working on our renovation filter for our room layouts, which is fine for right now. I don't know why we can never get that to always high at all for the structural, but the most important settings that I want to point out here for working with interior elevations is this option right here for the zooming. So if we have this as fit in window, this really is a setting that does a good job of capturing just the content of the interior elevations itself and placing that directly onto our layouts. So when we create those drawings, it tends to work the best when this is set to fit in window. So let's go ahead. We're going to hit OK on that. We are going to, let's just kind of preview what our interior elevations look like here. So we can take a look here at our east elevation, our north elevation, our south, obviously, and our west elevation. Okay, so with all of these, you can tell that these views are, jumped us right to fitting that in the screen, which is great. Before we actually go and we place these on our layout, I do want to point out just the settings of the drawings that we are using here that will help with the placement of this. So with these drawings for interiors, there's really a few specific settings that I want to point out. The first of which is that we do want to fit the frame to the drawing. Now this works well when we are fitting the content within the views. So if we match those up where we're both fitting the view to the content and we're also fitting the frame to the drawing, that's a way to keep our boundaries just nice and tight on our content within that's being captured within those interior elevations. So so that is an important one that I want to note. The other one that I want to note is our anchor point. Now, if we have this placed right on the center, what it's going to do when we create these drawings is going to place it right on this little center point here. You can see as I hover over it, we get the little note that we're right on the center. That way, it's going to always keep it centered. And as we start stretching that room, or if that room grows a little bit in one direction or another, it's always going to keep these views centered within those grids. So those are really kind of the important things to note when we are placing these drawings on the layout. Now, if we have these drawings picked up here, or if we pick up the settings of that drawing, that will ensure here that we do have these correct settings here. You can also see that we're using a layout pen in this case versus a model pen. We are using that insertion point. Using the internal origin, we'll take a look at that here in a second, what that does. That can sometimes be an option if you want to have it fixed at a certain point where you're essentially pinning the drawing view to the model placement. But I find for interior elevations, it works better to just have it as a middle anchor point. So, okay, if we've set that all up right, then let's go ahead and we'll grab our 4 elevations here. We'll just kind of pay attention here to our east, north, south, and west, and what order this comes in. So by selecting it here in the list, our east should be our first, and our west should be our last one. So let's go ahead now, and we're going to just drag and drop these layouts here, and let's see if we did that right. Okay, so obviously something went wrong there. So, well, what happened? Did we get those? You know what? I think actually I only dragged that one single view there. So let's actually do this. I'm going to make sure I'm picking up all of them. That's a little strange. Why is that? There we go. So we're going to drag and drop all of them. Okay, so now we have all 4. I think that first time around I only picked up the one for whatever reason. But whenever we're placing these, it's nice to do all of them at once. And okay, so there we go. We can see that we now have these placed. If we zoom in a little bit, we can check out our scale on this drawing. They seem a little bit small for our size here. You'll actually notice that our pantry was sized up a little bit to 1/2 inch. Same with our kitchen up here. So now that we have these placed, in order to make that adjustment here, if you'll recall, our clone folder was set to that 1/4 inch, and our laundry followed those settings here. So if we go into our view settings, we can make that switch here to 1/2 inch, and these will automatically update. And because we're using that middle insertion point, or that anchor point on these, it's automatically going to size those to that grid from the center point outward. So okay, great. We now have gone through, we've created our new interior elevations, we've placed it on our layout. Now let's jump back here and let's just make a few slight adjustments here to our room, just to kind of see how we can manipulate that and try to keep things working properly on our view. So one of the first things that we can do here is let's do this. Let's just extend our room a little bit. So say we want like a little bit more space here, like maybe an extra little cabinet or some room on the end to put some brooms or something else in this room. Let's actually create a little marquee here. And if we go to our edit, we're going to stretch in this case. So it's going to be the reshape, stretch, Control H. And let's just extend this room by 1 foot. Okay. So what we've done there is, well, it did a few things that kind of screwed a few things up. I can see that it actually grabbed the edge of this counter that we had extended off the edge. So that got pulled out. We're going to go ahead and extend the edge there. And so it moved these cabinets over, which is fine. But obviously we have a few little adjustments here if we wanted to create that space. So that is one thing with the marquee. It's great for stretching walls, slabs, in things that are stretchable. But if you pick up an object within there, then it's just going to drag that object with it. So, okay, let's go and just take a quick look now. We'll actually jump right back over to our layouts here, and let's watch as our drawings hopefully get updated and recentered within our layout grid here. So, okay, so now we can see that we've created that additional little space there at the end. These drawings have remained within their position, and yeah, that's great. That's exactly what we wanted to have happen. Now, one of the other things that I want to point out is just like, say globally here, we wanted to move this entire room within our project. So I'm actually going to, well, we don't need the marquee. We're just going to select everything in here. Let's just take this and we're just going to drag it, I don't know, let's move it like 6 feet. Okay, so all we've done is we've shifted over our interior elevation. We've shifted over all of our model content in relation to our project. And once again, let's go back and let's just check to see what happens with our layout. Now you will notice that these 4 at the bottom, which were modified, are updating here. But you will see that nothing has changed. So because we have these set as our anchor point on the origin here, you know, in the middle, it's not going to be moving at all for us, which is great. If we happen to say these 2 right here, if we were on our internal origin instead, so we're gonna screw this up right now, and we go back and we move our drawing view back 6 feet, we're going to go and check out what happens now to those views. Now, one of them probably didn't change in position. Probably this one should stay the same. This one here, though, because we did set that internal anchor point, pinned to the model essentially, that one now did get shifted off. So this one didn't shift at all in the XY direction. This one did shift in the X direction. So because we had that set as using the internal origin, that's why those got screwed up there. So let's go ahead. We're going to delete these 2 real quick, and we can go ahead and simply just drag and drop our first 2 is the east and the north. We're going to drag and drop those right back in there and see if those will repopulate those grids. So I can see, okay, so that did not function exactly how we wanted. I have found that it doesn't necessarily fill in the right locations. So sometimes it's just easier to delete everything and go back and drag and drop all of them to get them to kind of be re-specified or reassigned to those grids. So, okay, there we go. We now have all these set. These are, we'll just double check to make sure that they have the right origin. We have these fit to frame. So yeah, that is the workflow that wanted to discuss here. There is one other setting that I think is worth taking a look at. We'll just take a look at this 105 East laundry room. Now within these view settings here, if we did change that from our fit in window to the current zoom, I do want to just show what that does to our drawing on our layout here. So we'll jump back over, and I just want you to see what will happen when we have that to the current zoom. So okay, so actually nothing did happen because it is set to fit frame to drawing. Let's see if we can get that to update again, just by zooming in or by dragging and dropping that layout here. Okay, so it's our 15 East. I can see that it's highlighted over here. And you will notice, if we drag this off, that it is a much larger view here. And so in this case, yeah, it automatically was picked up to crop to frame versus fit frame to drawing there when we had changed the view settings. So, so that is one of those things where if we want this to perform a little better, where we don't get all this extra space that we have to crop all the time, then it does help to have our view settings defined, obviously, so that we are fitting in the window. And of course with this, we want that to be fit frame to drawing. And so those are really the two in combination that will help us keep things in line. So okay, that is it for this tutorial on interior elevations and getting those to be placed on our master layouts. Hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions at all, then please just type them into the comments section. If you enjoy this type of content, then make sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notifications when we put out new videos. We got a lot of videos planned here for the next month, so we hope that you'll continue watching, learning about Archicad, and as always, if you have any suggestions, then leave it in the comments section, and we will catch you here on another video coming up very soon. Thanks for watching.